All content provided on this podcast is for informational, entertainment, or educational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice of any kind, including but not limited to legal, medical, financial, exercise, or health related. Listeners are encouraged to consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast. Any reliance you place on such information is strictly at your own risk. By listening to this podcast, you agree that the hosts, guests, producers, and all affiliated parties are not liable for any damages, losses, or injuries resulting from the use or misuse of the information provided. This podcast may occasionally feature discussions on sensitive topics. Listener discretion is advised.
So you've decided to start working out. What's the first thing you do? Do you get a gym membership? Do you get your refrigerator in order? Do you buy a bunch of Under Armour clothes? No. We got something else we're talking about today. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Faith, Freedom, and Fitness. Introducing your host, John Turk. He is joined by Michael Wayne Foster. Get ready for the F3 podcast.
All right, John. So, we led into this with talking about people that the first thing they want to do is get their gym membership. What are they going to do? They're going to hire a personal trainer. Are they going to go to one of the AI sites and have a diet and a workout program written for them? But, you and I have been talking. That's not the first thing that they need to do. The first thing that they need to do is get their blood work done. And that's something that even people that are in the fitness game that know the difference between certain amino acids and fat burners and everything else don't have a clue when they get a sheet in front of them that's got all their blood work and their panels done. I know I'm one of those. I know some, but I don't know all. So can you kind of walk us through what the process is, what doctor you go to, what you ask for, and what you're looking for before you get started?
Yeah. So I think it's really important for several reasons. Number one, because everybody has a different normal than the next person. That's why when you get a blood test done, they always give you a range. You need to be in this range, right? Well, for me, for example, when I was younger, my testosterone was like right around 1,000. And right now it's like 400. It's low. So even though it's within the normal range, the doctors will not give me testosterone because I'm still 400. And it's way, way low for me. I'm normally in the 1,000, So I just think it's important for people to start this out for, number one, to find out what your normal is for all these blood tests, and then also to find out if you are deficient in anything. So in other words, your testosterone's low, your estrogen is off, your progesterone's off, your thyroid's off. There's a bunch of hormones that you should get tested. And the other thing, you should start out with some, what I call inflammation markers, also certain vitamins and minerals like vitamin D, fish oil, iron. All these things are really important to start your fitness program, because you could go through your program for 6 months, you're not making any gains, you're like, what's wrong, and your trainer's going to be going, I don't know, right? But all of a sudden you get a blood test done and your testosterone's low, or your estrogen's off, your thyroid was low, you don't have enough B vitamins in your body, so you're lagging and you're tired, you're not putting 100% into your workouts. So there's a lot of things that could be sabotaging your success. And I think it's important if you start off with a clean slate so you don't waste any time once you begin your program.
Okay,
so
let's start with this if we could. What's the very first thing that you need to do? Do you go to your family doctor? Do you go to a specialist, a hematologist? Who do you go see, and what do you say to them? So walk me through this like a complete noob.
Yeah, that's a very good question. A lot of people don't know, but in general, most of these tests you can get done from your general practitioner, so your family doctor. The problem with that, though, is a lot of these doctors are going to say, you don't need that, and you really do. And I don't know why they get like that, because number one, your insurance usually covers these, especially if you're going for what's called a preventative exam. So what I do at the beginning of the year, because then they don't say no to a lot of stuff. So the preventative exams, they do test you for a lot of things that normally they wouldn't pay for. And I'll just tell you, some of the things that they won't pay for on a preventative exam, just get it done anyways. It's not usually that much money, and it's well worth it to have your basic biomarkers done. So the one that you're going to start off with is called your complete metabolic panel. And be sure it includes like your liver and kidney enzymes and things like that, your glucose. And a lot of these are best done in the morning. And one of the things you want to be sure of whenever you're doing any of these blood tests, there's a lot of them require a certain time of day, like your cortisol, your testosterone. Women, it's your, what phase you're in your menstrual cycle. But it's also important to do them fasted. And it's just good to know because most of the ones on the complete metabolic panel, like your lipids, your glucose, it needs to be fasted. So right off the bat, get it done in the morning if you can. First thing, get your first appointment in the morning at your general practitioner, and then just get your blood work done on a fasted blood test. The other thing I would do is, this complete metabolic panel includes all your blood cells and your, like I said, usually your kidney panels, your liver panels, but you also want to make sure it has your lipids and cholesterol for heart disease, right? You want to know if you got some clogged arteries or you got high cholesterol or something like that. It's really important. And one thing I'll throw in there that everybody should get done, especially if you're like 45 or older, is what they call a cardiac calcium score. And that's a real simple test. I think you call 1-800-NEW-TEST, and then you can get this thing done for $100, and it'll tell you if you have calcium in your arteries. Now, one of my friends, his life was saved. He had a widowmaker calcified in his major coronary artery. So he found that through a simple, cardiac calcium score. So that's something you should get too, because what if you're working out, you don't even know you got clogged arteries and you drop over a heart attack? So, I think that's really important too, to know your lipid and cholesterol levels, get a baseline. And a lot of times don't let them throw you on cholesterol medicine if you're a little elevated. You don't need that. You just fix your diet.
You mean statins?
Yeah, don't let them throw you on any of those stuff.
There are so many people on statins, John. It's just absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, and what's funny is people don't realize it, but cholesterol, you know why it's important? You have to have it. And cholesterol is like the fire department, right? When you see a fire and the fire department's there putting it out, do you blame the firemen? Oh, hey, firemen are always starting fires. They're always at a fire, right? Well, cholesterol is the same thing. It's the repair mechanism. So when you have an artery that's inflamed and you got a bad diet and you get little cuts in it because, your blood pressure is elevated, cholesterol's plugging those holes. So it's like the fireman. It's at the scene of the crime, but it's not the culprit. So whenever you have cholesterol, it's super important because it's what all your sex hormones are made from. Cholesterol is the beginning base hormone for all of those sex hormones, which is, your love life, your fitness life, all these things come from cholesterol. So it's really important to make sure that your cholesterol level is healthy. Lipids too, you know what those are, you want to make sure those aren't elevated. And, again, with statins, you can fight them with a lot of natural supplements.
I remember we used to sell red yeast rice a lot in the store.
Yeah, but you know what? What some of the pharmaceutical companies are doing? They're taking out the mechanism that lowers the cholesterol that's in red rice yeast, which really is wrong, because what they've done is now they've patented that, and they're telling all the supplement companies to take it out. So now most of the red rice yeast you're getting doesn't have the molecule in it that is lowering your cholesterol. So,
man, I don't want to go off on the weeds on this, John, but just by you saying that right there, I've got to at least go off on the weeds a little bit.
Okay.
It's like, are people waking up to the fact now that they get the fact that the government absolutely hates us? I mean, it's insanity. Like I can't believe the thing that got me that was the most shocking was when they talked about certain foods that we sell in the United States that they won't sell in other countries. Skittles,
hey, Mike,
Fruity Pebbles.
Listen to this one.
All right.
I'm going to bring up the Epstein files here. You know what's really interesting? Somebody brought this up to me. They said in the Epstein files, they got Epstein going back and forth with someone from, I think it was the pharmaceutical labs or something like that. And they were talking about, forcing a lot of people to get the jab and things like that. But also there was something to do with cancer in there. And now all of a sudden recently you see all these countries that are saying, yeah, we have a cure for cancer. We have a cure because they've always had a cure. They just didn't want to do it because it's such a moneymaker. So now you got Russia, China, a lot of the European nations are coming out with this news that they got these cures for cancer. And it's just so much is manipulated by our government, by the media. They're all involved in it. They're all at play, and it's all about power and money. And it's really sad. And that's what COVID was all about. You look at it, you were all told to get the vax, and, if you didn't, you were killing people. And what happened? If you're vaccinated, you shouldn't have to worry, right? How am I not vaccinated putting you at risk? I'm not, because that's what the vaccine was for. But to get off the weeds.
No, because you and I could go down that trail for a while, but we'll save that for another time. But I'm really glad that we did bring this up, because what I'm trying to say is that's why podcasts, I'm not saying like this one specifically, but like this one that talk about this, I think are very important, because it shows people that win, lose, or draw, no matter what your politics are, you need to wake up and take charge of your own health. I mean, that's really all there is to it. I mean, and I'm not trying to knock general practitioners, doctors. I'm married to one. But I mean, unless it's a specialized medicine, when you're just going to like a general health doctor, I remember, who was it? Dana White, the UFC president. It's like, the worst thing you do is go to a doctor for your general health. Take care of that yourself, because all they're going to do is give you a script to something. I mean, they're basically have become legalized drug dealers. I mean, you can go to AI now. I know you can, and be like, here's all the symptoms. What do you think I have? And it could tell you. And then it should be like, then you go to your doctor and be like, this is what it is. Can I get this? Rather than going in there and having them tell you what you need. Cause I don't know, man. It's just, I find that to be shady. So bottom line is, one of the reasons that this was an important podcast for us to do is it's showing you that other than just taking care of yourself, eating right, working out, take control of your health and know what's going on inside of your body, on that, just to show people that, they need to grab their health by the balls, basically, and take charge. I hate to say it so crudely, but that's the case. It's like, man, if you don't know what's going on inside your body, so let's talk about me for a second, John. Because of you, I did that the cardiac calcium score. You told me to. You were really riding me. That was the D-ball and ribeye test, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and John knows, I mean, we go to Korean barbecue. I eat a lot of fatty meat. I do. It's just, I always have. Julie is probably back there. Yeah, she could testify. Pounds. And I was really worried when you told me to do that. I'm not going to lie to you. When I was in there and sitting down and getting ready to go, and they're doing the thing, I started getting a little bit nervous. Remember, I called you. I was in the waiting room. I'm like, why am I doing this again, Johnny? And you're like, ribeyes, D-ball. I still laugh about that. It's so funny. But you're like, you got to get it done. And thankfully, it came back like 0. But you know what? I had another friend that I was talking to today. I'll give him a plug. He's a former professional arm wrestler, and he's a teacher back in Michigan. His name's Dave Shea. He's in phenomenal. He's our age, mid-50s, and he's in phenomenal shape. And he just had one done as well. Not a dent in the fender. So I'm just wondering, for some people, is it just genetics, John, or is it lifestyle? Because I mean, here's a guy that big, jacked, eating tons of stuff, taking supplements. I mean, is it just genetics? What is it? Tell me.
So did he had 0 then as well, right?
That's right.
So a big part of that is working out. And some people, you're right, is they can't process, your lipids or your cholesterol good enough. But actually, the calcium score isn't your lipids or your cholesterol. Now, that's another thing that can clog your arteries. And that requires like a CT scan, usually with contrast dye. That's a big, expensive test. You don't want to shoot that dye, and you usually have something called gadolinium, and you don't want that in you. It stays in your brain forever. So the cardiac calcium score is one part of the clogged arteries. It's not the full picture. So just because you're a 0 on the cholesterol side, I mean, the calcium side, you still could have a clog, down the road that's a cholesterol version.
Well, how do you get it done without the dye?
You can't. That's the best thing to light up those arteries. So you got to get the dye one. So I didn't do that one, but that's the one that I would say also you have to worry about if you're eating a lot of saturated fat. You could have a lipid cholesterol type clog. So, it's not easy to figure out unless you get that test done. But, that's why they look at your blood markers, your lipids, your cholesterol. If they've ever been really elevated for a long time, you got to look at that. And then also your blood pressure. These are all things that are kind of good indicators as to whether or not you might have one of these lipid clogs, so to speak. So I would definitely be monitoring that as well. Like I said, get your lipids and cholesterol checked because of heart disease. The other thing is important that's going to help you manage that is like your vitamin D levels for your bones. It's also for your mood, your immune system, and it's also for your strength. Vitamin D is ultra important for, your bones. If your bones aren't strong, they're going to shut your muscles off. So like people with osteoporosis, if you notice, there are a lot of them are weak. Well, why are they weak? Your body talks to itself. And if your bones can't support what you're doing, it's weakening. The muscles get weak. Not only because you probably haven't used them, that's why you got weak bones, but it's your body is one big communication vessel, and everything communicates with each other. Even the fascia, your whole body's enveloped in fascia, and it communicates through your whole body. Your stomach communicates with your brain. So everything is one big communication system. Your thyroid's important too. So thyroid stimulating hormone is another one that they look at a lot when you do a basic thyroid panel. But I think you should go one step further than that. I think you should look at your free T3 and your free T4, because T3 is the master thyroid hormone. It's the one that's active. It's the one that's burning your fat and everything else. But free T4 they look at, because if you don't have enough thyroid stimulating hormone, you might have good T4, but it's not converting to T3. So that's the thing that they should look at, because a lot of doctors won't. They'll just look at your TSH, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone. But you got to look at your free T3 as well, because what if you're not converting your T4 into T3? And then here's a little caveat to that. A good supplement that helps convert T4 to T3 is selenium, and people don't even know that. But selenium, if you're deficient in that, which is a ton of them, is in those, there's the most are in that nut. It's
the macadamia nut?
No, the other
Brazilian nut.
Brazil nut.
Yeah, that's right.
Brazil nut has the highest level of selenium in it. You only need like 1 or maybe 2 a day to get your selenium. But selenium is super important mineral. You can look it up. I don't want to go into another rabbit hole, but look up the importance of selenium in the diet. It's huge. The other thing you want to get looked at is your C-reactive protein. And this one detects inflammation. It lets you know if your heart especially is having issues or anywhere else in your body you're having inflammation. So it's called C-reactive protein. The other one is your SED rate. These are another inflammatory marker. It shows you also, too, a lot of times if you have an autoimmune disease, you're having like all these weird issues going on. You're losing hair. You're weak. Your joints hurt. Your stomach's trashed. They're going to look at your SED rate, because it's an indicator of some kind of inflammation going on in your body. And usually it's one of the autoimmune functions. Okay. B12, if you're like low energy and you just can't get yourself going, like you see a lot of people, I went and got a B12 shot. You can't. B12 and vitamin C and these things are water soluble. So if you'll notice, if you look on the back of a vitamin B jar, they got mega doses on there, way over what's required by the registered dietary allowance, right, by the government. So B12, you just flush it out. You'll pee if you take your B vitamin. A lot of times it's solid yellow. Or
yeah. Do you remember animal packs? They were loaded with B vitamins. Whenever you pee, it was like neon yellow.
So that's B12 is. So the thing is, well, now you're looking at the new age of things, and a lot of times your B vitamins might not be a methylator. So you'll want to make sure you're getting a B vitamin, and you find out if you're a methylator or a non-methylator by getting a genetic test. And that's where you hear all these people getting these genetic tests done. So if you're not a methylator, you have to get methylated B vitamins. It's really important. Otherwise, you won't even absorb them.
So what you just said right there, you even lost me on that one. What's a methylator? What does that mean?
Methylation is it's helping the B12, in layman's term, getting absorbed into your body, and other B vitamins as well. So like, for example, you look on the back of the jar. So a lot of times B12, they'll call it cyanocobalamin, right? Mm-hmm. Well, guess what that cyanocobalamin is? That's basically cyanide. So they're mixing it with a little bit of cyanide, and they're mixing it with the B12 molecule. That's why it's called cyanocobalamin. But what you want is methylcobalamin if you're not a methylator. I wouldn't even get the cyanocobalamin. I would get the methylated version. And look on your jar. You'll see it when you look at the back of the supplement jar. It'll say methylcobalamin on there. And also I think your B3 and 5 are ones that they're starting to methylate now. So that's important to look at too. You want to get that B12 test done. The other one is you want to get your cortisol done, because that's going to be something that's going to put a lot of belly fat on you if it's elevated. And it has to do with your adrenal function, right? So if you're getting a lot of belly fat, and let's say you're tired and you're always craving carbs, that's high cortisol. And you want to get that test done in the morning before 10 o'clock, because that's when they're elevated the most. Now you can do that test, or you can do a 24-hour urinal dicortisol test. And they're going to piss in you collect all your piss in one day, and then they monitor it throughout the day to see where you're at. That's a really extended one. If you are having trouble with, maybe an autoimmune issue, they're going to look at that. But basically, you can get the cortisol function done with your basic test as well, and do that in the morning. The other one is iron. Iron is huge for, oxidation of the body, right? It detects anemia. Could be an indicator of that. Could also indicate hypothyroidism, especially if it's low. You could get a vitamin C deficiency, which is going to affect your healing, repairing your muscles. So ferritin is super, super important, and which is, ferritin's basically vitamin, it's an iron. But you also want to look at total iron, because total iron has different types of, I think it's ferritin in it. There are different forms of it. So you want to look at your ferritin levels and then your total iron, and that will be for general fatigue. So especially if you're someone who's been fatigued a lot, you want to look at your white blood cells, because maybe you got mono, you don't even know it, right? That's why that complete metabolic panel is important. So we're getting into, I'm naming certain diseases because they can affect your fitness level. So these are good to know going into this, right? If you got low energy, or, you just feel a little bit sick all of a sudden all the time, and you're tired, you could have a little case of mono coming on, and then it's going to explode, and you're going to be just completely laid on your back. So, iron, total iron, you want to look at hemoglobin, because that goes with iron, right? Your hemoglobin, it shows the body's ability to carry the oxygen. So the total iron and ferritin are important to make it, and then hemoglobin carries it. Another one that's really important for your heart. Now, all these I'm naming, men and women should get. Another one that's important for heart health is you want to look at homocysteine, because it's a good indicator of a possible heart disease. And one of the things that people don't realize is folic acid can lower it. So it's a good thing to know, right? Folic acid, you'll see that in a lot of your.
Well, when we were trying to get pregnant, I don't know, do you say we, when I was trying to get Karina pregnant, she was really hitting folic acid hard, and she did with our daughter as well, because I guess folic acid decreases the chance of spina bifida.
Yeah.
So that was one of those things. We have tons of folic acid here. That's what she was.
Yeah, I think you don't want to get the folate folic acid. So folic acid, also people call it folate. They're actually different. You don't want the folate.
Right. We had folic acid. That's what we had. Yeah.
Now the other thing that's important. Now this one's for guys. Is your total and free testosterone.
Can you explain the difference?
What's that?
Okay, let me put it like this, and tell me if this is correct, because I have people all the time asking me, like, well, I got my testosterone's high. I'm like, what's your free testosterone? Is it fair to say, in layman's terms, that your total testosterone is how much crude oil you have, but your free testosterone is how much gasoline you have?
Yeah, pretty much. That's a
good way of looking at it? That's how I always explain it to people.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I don't understand. My sex drive's low. I'm not recovering well, and my testosterone levels are high. And I'm always like, how's your free testosterone doing?
Yeah. So, for example, my testosterone normally, as I gotten older, but now it went down to like 400. But I always have really low free testosterone. So what that means is I have a lot of what's called SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, and that ties up your testosterone. So even though you may say your levels are, I got 750, right? But if you got a really super high levels of SHBG, you're bound up. You got a lot of your testosterone bound up, because let's look at your free testosterone. Now that's going to be like, I think it's like from 3 to like 25 is your normal score. So you could have like a 2. I was at actually 0 when I had my free done. I was at 0. So I had a 700 testosterone with a 0 free. That's
how did you feel?
I didn't feel good at all. My joints were always a little stiff. I had no energy, no sex drive. And then, I didn't take testosterone right away. I took what's called HCG to stimulate my own body to secrete more testosterone. And then I took something called Clomid, which also helps that. And then it actually enabled my body to bump up the free testosterone. So it didn't bump up my total much, but it did bump up my free to the mid range, even though my total testosterone only jumped up about 150, 200. So
and for those listening, both of those are something that they give at male fertility clinics as well.
Yeah.
That's, both of those, human chorionic gonadotropin and Clomid, both.
Yeah.
And Go ahead.
women should get those tests as well. And I know it sounds like it's just for guys, but women should get both of those too, because they can.
Yeah.
And another thing that guys should get and women should get, we're going to get to women here shortly, is also test your estradiol. Now, estradiol, especially for men, it's a form of estrogen. It has to be in balance with testosterone in men. And if it's not, you're going to get like sore joints. You're going to get low energy as well. You don't need a lot, but it's a big sign of, wow, I'm just not feeling right. Something's wrong. So this form of estrogen is super important for testosterone balance. So it's really important for guys to get your estradiol looked at, and that's ESTRADIOL, estradiol, and it's a super, super, super important one. So we'll get to this in the women's, but there's 3 forms of estrogen, and estradiol is E2, and it's the most important one for fitness in men and women. So that's a really, if you're going to only get one of your estrogens checked as a woman, you should get your estradiol looked at. And you more than likely would, your doctor would. And for guys, super important. I don't care what age you are, get your PSA looked at, because a lot of people are getting cancer now, and just, your PSA, which is your prostate specific antigen, super important, because that's a precursor to letting the doctors know if, hey, you're getting issues with your prostate, right? You want it to below 4. So usually,
I have a question, John, because we all know how important it is for males to get their prostate checked. But the other one that gets me, as long as we're speaking about a little bit of, speaking about cancer here, is the pancreatic cancer. We've all seen, I'm sure everyone's known someone that's got pancreatic cancer. I mean, when they go downhill, once you get that, that's pretty much a death sentence. And I was asking a doctor friend of mine why that is, and they said, well, it's because it's usually by the time they find it, it's so far advanced. And I'm just wondering, off any of these blood tests that we're talking about, does anything give a clue that there could be some sort of an abnormality in the pancreas?
Well,
just curious.
At this
don't
point,
know.
You're starting to get more into a medical blood work than a fitness blood work. So I wanted to kind of stay in fitness, but for pancreas, if you wanted to get that looked at, you're not going to get that really from your general practitioner. You're going to get it from a gastroenterologist. And more than likely, if you're having symptoms like that, your doctor's going to give you a basic blood work. And if nothing's showing up and it looks good, they're going to probably say, you know what, I'm going to send you to a gastroenterologist. One of the things that a lot of people do get, you'll get your inflammatory markers will be elevated, because a lot of times people will have what's called pancreatitis. Mm-hmm. And once you get that, your pancreas is a little compromised. And you got to be kind of on it. But pancreatitis, if you get it, it is brutal. You could die. So, I mean, how do you know if your pancreas, if you're getting cancer? You don't. And that's why it's important to just be on your health in general and always get, your blood work done. That's why it's important to get that complete metabolic panel that looks at your blood cells, your red and white blood cells.
How often, John? We're talking about this. It's like, okay, I'm going to start my workout program, starting the diet. I'm going to listen to John. I'm going to go in and I'm going to get my blood work done. How often should you repeat checking your blood work? Would you recommend?
For me, if you're older, if like you're over 50, 2 times a year, every 6 months, I would do it.
Okay.
And then if you're under 50, I would probably do it once a year and go get a physical from your doctor. I bash doctors a lot, but there's good doctors out there, ones you can trust, ones that when they took that Hippocratical oath, do no harm, they won't do harm to you. They're going to help you. And there's a lot out there now, especially COVID revealed to me, that they completely ignored that Hippocratical oath. And it's disgusting. And you've been complicit. You're just as guilty. And if you're someone who knows what you were doing to people, you should lose your license. That's all I got to say on that one.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It just really bothers me what they've done. You took a Hippocratical oath to do no harm. I want you to think about that. If you're a physician out there listening, do no harm.
That's
what
right.
happened to that? What happened to that oath? But anyways.
Okay. So on a good note, so we talked about the guys. You said you wanted to get into a couple things with the girls, and then I want to wrap it up because I do have a question to you about body communication. So let's start with the women. What is some stuff that they need to be looking at more specifically, other than what we've mentioned thus far?
Well, so for guys, there are some other additional tests. I'll go over those first real quick. You can get prolactin test. Mm-hmm. And prolactin, if that's elevated, it can suppress your testosterone. It can affect your mood, your energy. So that's another one that's important. I didn't mention these because they're just more extended tests. Luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone are important because it looks at your pituitary axis and how that's stimulating your testes to produce testosterone. So these are extra ones that you want to think about because that pituitary axis is super important for male testosterone. That's what HCG does. It works on that whole axis.
Yep.
So for women, I would definitely do an extended estrogen panel simply for just looking at cancer. But again, look at that estradiol, which is the E2. Now, there's also one called E1, and E1 is estrone, and it basically looks at your inflammation. You can get weight gain from it. If it's too high, cancer risk, all these things. And when it's too low, you could have bone loss, low energy, vaginal dryness, And then you have estriol, which is E3. And that gives you mild fatigue, fluid retention. You could have fluid retention. And a lot of people get UTIs a lot, especially women. You might want to look at your E3. So that's also, believe it or not, that one is responsible for the skin thinning. So you might help your skin out if your E3 is in the normal range. So that's what I would do. I mean, there's things we can talk about if it's too low or if it's, too high or how to raise it, but you're going down a whole nother thing there. But I would, if you're a woman, I would definitely look at your progesterone because that has to be in balance with your estrogen. And you want to test your progesterone. All your female hormones should be on days 3 to 5 of your cycle. And they should all be done like in the morning. And then your progesterone has to be on days 19, I believe, through 21 of your cycle if you're going to look at your progesterone. So you might have to go back and do that one. Progesterone is super important for women because if you can't sleep, super important for your sleep, ladies, is your progesterone levels right. The doctor might put you on like a 100 milligram capsule of it. I think it's a milligram. I think they go by milligrams, but and it's not one to mess with. Don't think taking more is going to be better because you can get a crash if you come off. You can really mess your balance up. And then women could also look at their FSH and LH. I mean, that's important to it. It looks at your ovarian function and where you are in perimenopausal life, right? So you need to look at those things. And like I said, women should get testosterone, they're total and free, and then they SHBG as well. So these are some of the extra tests that I think women should get. And like I said, I mean, you can go on here and there's a guy out there, he calls himself Never Die or something like that. If you look at some of the blood work that guy gets done, it's like thousands of dollars of blood work, but he wants to see how long he can extend his life for. And like I said, these are basic tests here. Some of them we're going into are a little more extended, but I just got to say, if you get any kickback from your doctor, just tell them, hey, why can't I do these? I just want to have them on record. I want to have what my normal body is like, so I don't have to go by these levels, right? So now look at, if I go in and do my testosterone, like I said earlier, or let's look at my thyroid stimulating hormone, that can even has a certain level, and they've changed that level over the years. That's why it's really important to do these blood work because you can look at your baseline blood levels for all your metabolic system. So it's really important to do. I mean, ultra important just for your general health and also for fitness. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
and that's a good story. But what we were saying earlier really piqued my interest about how the body communicates. I mean, and I do understand as well that the loop with the hypothalamus, pituitary testes, as far as in males, we're talking about HPT axis, everything. And when it comes to the communication that our body has, and this is going to, our last podcast on peptides kind of tie into that. I was doing some listening to a podcaster, Dr. Trevor Bachmeyer is who I was listening to. He's definitely an interesting guy. Yeah, he's a chiropractor. So he's not an MD, but he's got some pretty good knowledge. And one of the things he was talking about with peptides is that it helps your body communicate with itself better because over the years with different, I mean, let's keep it real. We just talked about it. Poisons, Skittles, all the stuff we're putting in our body and environmental estrogens and toxins and everything else. It's making where our freeway system in our body to communicate has been hyper polluted. So he said that is one of the things that peptides, what they're doing is they're taking that sequence of amino acids that are injected sub-Q and getting straight into the bloodstream and causing your body to really open back up those pathways of communication so your body can heal the way it's supposed to, or produce growth hormone like you did when you were peaking out, things like that. So I guess I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts at all on that when it comes to your body's communication abilities, using peptides for that.
Well, I think what peptides do is they help your body function better. So, for example, we're looking at that those peptides that they call a Wolverine stack we were talking about, right? You got
BPC and TB,
TB500 and BPC 157. Yeah. So again, I just want to caution people that with peptides there is a risk, right? So, for example, you have those two peptides. They're the most popular ones. Everybody's injecting them. And like I said before, if we were talking before we got on, that it's so important to get it from a registered pharmacy, because a lot of these clinics or these facilities that are selling these peptides, and aren't like 503A pharmacies, you just don't know how much of the product you're getting. It's not that, I got to test it. It has BPC 157 in it. Well, how much does it have in it? Because if you get too much, what happens with these peptides, especially those two, is they're very good at what's called angiogenesis. And that's creating more capillaries to feed your body. And that's why you heal from them. Now, the downside to that is, what does cancer run on? Angiogenesis. So if you have a cancer, you're now giving that cancer the ability to multiply and replicate even faster, because what you're doing is that you're giving it that whole entire system or highway of communication to spread. So yes, you're taking the BPC 157, the TB 500 to get more angiogenesis, to heal faster, to bring more blood flow and healing properties to the area. But at the same token, if you have an unknown cancer hiding somewhere, you've just exploded it. Yeah. So, and the same thing goes with these stem cells. These people are getting stem cells. I'll get on this topic. The scary thing about stem cells is how many times they replicate it. So if you go to a facility and they're like, you're getting this many million stem cells. Well, what if they replicated a cancer stem cell and they didn't even know it? Because a lot of these places, they're not that professional at it. It's still a very infant stages of development and how they treat disease and things like that, that you can't just go and replicate it without knowing what's in it. So too many people that are now jumping on the bandwagon and making all these new peptides in the stem cells, unless it's a really good, clean facility. And I mean clean by, FDA approved pharmacy, a facility that is, a 503A compounding pharmacy that's making your peptides. You better be damn careful what you're putting in your body, because you could explode cancer everywhere, especially with like TB 500 and BPC 157. People don't even realize that. Oh, how bad is a peptide? It's just a combination of 50 or less amino acids, right? No, it's very powerful. So look at growth hormone. What growth hormone separated a lot of bodybuilders. You see the space in their teeth, right? Why their jaw's growing. Yeah. Once you reach a certain age, if you put too much growth hormone in it, guess what closed? Your long bones, the end of them close. So what can only happen? Everything grows outward. Your head, your forehead, your jaw, and then all of a sudden your teeth start spacing out.
We've talked about that before. Barry Bonds, how his hat size went from like a 7 1/8 to like almost like a 7 3/4. It was huge. I mean, his actual skull grew.
Yeah, sure it did. Because that's the only thing that can grow. It grows outwards and around. Your knuckles grow, your forehead, your jaw, all that stuff. Your ears, your feet and hands will grow. My one buddy says, not to get graphic, but said his pecker grew. And he's like, yeah, my pecker grew. And I'm like, okay, how'd that happen? It's not
I'm sure a lot of guys would think that's cool, but I would be terrified. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah. So what else is, going to happen, right? That you can see. You know what, too, is your heart grows on growth hormone. And
well, see, that's where a lot of those guys have died. Like the big bodybuilders, the Greg Kovacs. Remember all those guys, the muscle fit guy?
One to you. So what happens with growth hormone when you take too much of it, your heart is contained within your rib cage. And it also has what's called the pericardial sac around it, right? And that pericardial sac, if you get pericarditis, remember when you heard through COVID, people are getting pericarditis, myocarditis, right? It's that sac that surrounds the heart. It gets inflamed and it's extremely painful and can be very deadly. So what happens when you have a rib cage that's a certain size, that perineum and that sac around your heart, if it starts getting compressed because your heart is growing and it grows outwards and it gets too big for your rib cage, it starts rubbing on your heart. And it starts not allowing your heart to fully contract. So what's called your cardiac output changes, and your whole mechanism of how your heart beats is impaired. So that's why growth hormone is so dangerous, because it can cause the heart to grow along with your internal organs. You see these guys with these giant bubble guts, they're combining growth hormone and insulin, which is even a worse combination, right? Because what's crazy about it, they're both huge growers of the body, right? They create huge anabolic effects, but both of them are contradictory to the other. If growth hormone it gets turned off if insulin is present. So it's a real fine dance. You got to do the growth hormone at the right time, the insulin at the right time, and basically you're on a continuous phase of growth. Well, everything's grown when you're in that kind of situation. Your heart, all your bones, everything, your organs, and that's why these guys get this distended gut.
Palumboism.
Yeah, their intestines are growing.
Yeah.
So again, what is growth hormone? It's a peptide. It's a peptide, just like insulin is a peptide.
Yep.
So these things are powerful, and everybody out there, especially these influencers, they're shooting whatever they want into them. It's fun and games now, and all of a sudden you're going to get this diagnosis pretty soon, and I hope you never do, but it's not going to be pretty. No. And the one thing I've done my whole life is, too many people, Mike, if there's one thing you could take away from this discussion, whenever you touch anything, don't think of the short game, think of the long game, because the long game is what's going to matter when you're this age and you're watching your little daughter grow up, but you're too messed up because we screwed up too much when we were younger. These kids nowadays, they're way worse than anything we ever did. And we thought we were nuts, right?
Oh, right.
So these kids now, I'd hate to see what they're going to like. I'm looking at that one kid. He's really popular. He's like 18 years old. Now he's like 19 or 20. I forget his name.
Is it Sam Sulik?
Yes. Look at his skin.
Oh, it's horrible.
And you got so many of these guys, they're just, who knows what they're pumping in there. I don't know. I don't know why his skin's messed up. I'm not going to, make any claims or anything like that, but it's a sign of certain things, right? So you got to look at a lot of these influencers and just ask yourself, man, I mean, it just looks too good to be natural, correct?
Well, and so many deaths, John. I mean, I could sit here and list all the ones. I mean, the guy that won Mr. Olympia, that Megatron, Sean Roden, he just died. That Dallas McCarver, back from the early 90s, almost everyone. Andreas Munzer, Paul DeMeo, Greg Kovacs. I mean, Mike Matarazzo. The list goes on and on, and it's just on and on. It's getting scarier too, because you can watch, if you sit there and look at the physiques of all of the Mr. Olympias, like when it started, you had Lee Haney, who was like, okay, and then Yates, and then and then after that, Ronnie Coleman, then they keep mutating. Even none of them look human anymore. I mean, these new guys, what's that guy's name? The Iranian guy, Hadi Chupin. Yeah. I was looking at, him and that Lunsford. I don't really watch bodybuilding anymore, but it's just looking at their physiques. It's insane. Yeah. I mean, they look, it's crazy.
Yeah, Mike, when you get a chance, look up Andrei Smyov. So Larry Wheels is a fitness influencer. He's actually a really ridiculously strong dude. He's like one of the strongest guys in the world, when it comes to powerlifting. And he went to Russia and trained with Andrei Smyov. He's like, I've seen this guy on a video. I've been watching his videos too. So, Mike, this guy's 330 pounds, all right? He's 5'11", 330. And he looks, what's crazy about it is he doesn't have your classical, like what you think of growth hormone, big bubble gut, right? He's got a small waist. He's really tight. And the only thing that looks funky on him are his hands and feet, which is a sign of growth hormone, right? I don't know what these guys are doing, Mike, but if you see Andrei Smyov, even Larry Wheels was looking at him saying, I couldn't stop looking at this guy. So he's 335, but keep in mind, he puts like 100 and something pounds around his waist and does one-handed pull-ups. One-handed pull-ups at 335 with weights on his waist. One-handed pull-ups.
It's insane.
Do you know how hard it is? I want you to go up to a pull-up bar, Mike, and just hang from one hand and see if you can make 30 seconds, you're doing really good. I mean,
Oh,
incredible.
I got long arms and I'm not exactly a little camper, as you know. Pull-ups that's by far the hardest exercise.
Yeah.
And ever since I hurt my Terry's minor this last summer, remember when I told you about that? I still to this day I start doing it, I feel it. I'm like, nope. So
So look up Larry Wheel's video with Andre Smyoff. It's Andrei, and then Smyoff is Smaev. The guy is a freak, man. He's probably the freakiest dude I've ever seen. His forearms are 23 inches. His arms are 24 inches. It looks like just these giant like legs hanging off his body, and his legs are massive. He benches like 690. He squats like ridiculous amounts of weights.
Was his hometown anywhere near Chernobyl?
He's way up there in Russia. I don't know if it's near Chernobyl, but he's a freak of nature, man. Especially not just to look at, but like physically, the guy is a phenomenal.
Well, I would really hope that when these guys do pass, well, I don't want them to pass, but when they do, because it's happening, that they really study on what it did. You know, it seems like you guys get like, oh, heart failure or whatever. I mean, I'd like to know like what drug caused what. Just, I mean, it's the only way we're really going to know, you know?
Yeah.
But
it's really hard to know too a lot of times because, you know, sometimes they're just going to look at them and go, well, we know they have a pretty good idea what causes certain things. But, you know, if you're someone who has a genetic mutation for something and then you add something to, there's a phrase that it makes complete sense. Is basically your genetics load the gun and your lifestyle pulls the trigger. Yeah. So if you're somebody that has a bad genetic mutation and you take growth hormone, it exaggerates it even more, right? Same thing with cancer. Growth hormone is going to do that. The peptides we talked about are going to do that. Now, you may never get cancer in your life, but all of a sudden you take those two peptides and all of a sudden, bang, you got this crazy cancer and you don't know why.
And on the flip side, you got old Meemaw sitting out there somewhere in Kentucky drinking whiskey and chewing tobacco into her late 90s, and somebody gives her a stalk of broccoli and she keels over dead. You know, could you imagine? You go either way.
Yeah, well, you know, you got the guy that smoked his whole life and he quit smoking and dies. I know. Explain it. You know what? All you can say is it's an extreme anomaly. When you get a guy that's 90 years old, he's been smoking his whole life, and then, you know, he quits and dies. There's something else there, you know. It's not like most people are going to be able to smoke their whole life and live to be 90. 99% of the people are going to die from that.
Absolutely.
That small anomaly that has probably some kind of genetic influence that is really good at removing like tar from their lungs. Not nicotine. People think nicotine is addictive. It's actually not. And there's studies to prove it. It's a big lie.
The other stuff. That's right. It's the other stuff. Well, they're showing that nicotine right now has got all sorts of health benefits, but that's for another topic. But for now, all I got to say is this: work out, eat healthy, and get your blood work done. Not in that particular order. Let's start.
Yep.
Well, John, let's start with our sponsors. And I can't think of a better guy to go to if I'm going to start training than what do you got for me?
I got thefearlessfitness.com. The Fearless, Fearless fitness.com. You can go on there and you can buy workouts that I sell online. You can also, a really good tool is to use my calculators if you want to figure out your 1 rep max bench press or body fat or some of those things, what you need to do for cardio, your heart rate, where it needs to be. So there's some good calculators on there. Read my blog's really good. So there's a lot of good fitness information on that website.
And that is true. And for me, check out Iron Mike's Kitchen over on TikTok. I've been doing that lately. The other day, I got to tell you, John, you changed my life by turning me on to that Kazan low glycemic rice. That parboiled rice, so good.
Good, isn't it?
So I had some of that left over, and then I had a bag of frozen vegetables, mixed the two together with a little sesame oil, and I had a brisket. I did a brisket the other day, but I sliced it really thin, which meant that, you know, brisket's got the fat on top. I took a knife and I cut the fat off. So I kept it really, really lean. It was lean brisket, and I mixed it up and hit it with some coconut aminos and made a stir fry. And it was good. So I just got to say,
real quick question, buddy. When you make your rice, how long do you store it in the refrigerator?
Oh, I know. I've been getting, okay. So I get those little animated AI things all the time. And it's like, I'm rice. I know they say to make a lot of it and store it in the fridge, but I carry mold that heat doesn't even kill, and you can't see me. So now, because of that, if I make it, I'll store it overnight, and that's it. One day, and that's all.
Yeah, I don't even do that. I bought this little rice. I mean, you're fine at the 24-hour mark, I think, but I got this little rice cooker. It does it per serving. It cleans up in like literally 10 seconds, and I put it right back on the counter. Put it in there. I walk away. It's the same measured amount every time. It's incredible. It's the best thing I ever bought. I got it on Amazon. If you want, I'll send you a link to it. It's insane.
Well, send me a link because I've been using that Ninja. I've got that Ninja. It's the air fryer and the pressure cooker deal. So I've been pressure cooking. It comes out great, but the only thing is, I'm using like a cup or two at a time, and we don't eat that much. So I'm really trying. I'm with you. I don't want to.
It's a perfect measure you can put in there, and you just put it in there. It gives you the little measuring cup with it, and then you just put the lid on. You turn it on, walk away, and in 20 minutes your rice is done, and then you just eat what you had, what you made. So you don't ever have to worry about that,
Yeah. Who would have thought leftover rice is becoming like, stay away.
Crazy.
It was crazy. Have you seen those, what I'm talking about, though? Those AI little shorts where they've got people.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean,
I haven't seen the rice one, but I see the AI fitness shorts all the time.
I'm your muscles and I'm worn down. You've got to give me proper rest and recovery or then I can grow. I'm like, it's like, it's almost like children's cartoon type things, but with actually some really good information on there. And like I said, the rice was one of them. So, well, hey, everybody, I want to thank everybody for listening, watching, if you're watching on YouTube. And John, let's see if you stick the landing here.
All right. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. And remember to stay faithful, stay free, and stay fit. We'll see you next time on the F3 podcast.